Welcome to another episode of the Hot Topic Podcast with your host, Patrick Quanch.
Hey. I have Will Brogan from One Nexus Group on the Hot Topic Podcast. Brother, how are you, man? It's good seeing you.
I'm good, man. I'm still in awe of the neon logo that you got in the background there, and the fact that you got Hot Topic for the podcast. What a perfect name. So, doing good, man.
Good. It's good to see you. Yeah. When I was going through ideas about what I wanted to really portray about a podcast, I didn't want it to be so centric, like, truck talk or utility bed or anything like that. I wanted to kind of be all encompassing. And it's very difficult to figure out a name that's all encompassing without leaving the word truck or transportation or anything out of the equation. So Hot Topic just kind of stuck and we rolled with it. So
Perfect.
yeah,
Perfect.
man.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Thank you for jumping on this. I really appreciate it. I know we've been talking in the past and we've talked about doing this for some time now, and it's I'm looking forward to it. Tell us a little bit about the One Nexus Group, how you maybe got started in the industry. Give us some background on Will.
So my story in the industry actually starts with Ken Taylor of Ken Taylor and Associates
Mm-hmm.
commercial truck training. The short version of it is I worked for Ken through about 2022. Did my own thing. Everybody seemed to shift during COVID, and my thing was training service advisors in Florida with Nissan for a couple of years. And then my wife told me, "You're on the road too much. Find something else." And eventually kind of worked my way back with Ken, and that caught the attention of the One Nexus Group, and realized that they kind of had, I wouldn't call it a hole necessarily in the training of the process, but saw a fit, probably be a better way to phrase that we filled that very, very nicely, and asked me to come in and kind of really be that transition, and then from Ken to a new era under One Nexus, and then run it once everything was kind of complete. And that transition mostly took place last year in 2024, some a little previous in 2023. But yeah, as far as the industry goes, I started with Ken. He was actually a football coach of mine way back in 2000, which was the same year that he started in this industry. So there's lots of little synergies that work together there, and the anniversaries and such. But after I was done with college, I came back and started running another business with Ken. And he said, "Hey, can you help me with this one?" One thing led to another, and next thing you know, we were running commercial truck training every day, and was going really, really smoothly until COVID, and shifting just started when that happened.
Yeah, COVID really changed. I mean, clearly that goes without saying. It
Right.
changed everything, but a lot of the in-person was just gone at that point. So everything's virtual. And if you, obviously I didn't know you at that time, but I would assume that, switching virtuals wasn't as easy as it is today, right? We didn't have a lot of the applications that we do today that, like the one that we're using right now that makes it easy to be able to communicate. Back then it was like, okay, well, how are we going to do this? And then I would assume you probably don't have the same impact when you're trying to teach virtually as you do in person. Is that a good assumption?
I've done plenty of both, and definitely see that. And I've done trainings, where it's individual one-on-one, where, belly to belly, as we call it, right? Done plenty of those, done plenty of groups, anywhere from 4 people to 20 people in a room, and then, speaking to larger things like truck clubs, and then done the virtual versions of all of those. And I think unless it's kind of a one-on-one setup like we have here, it doesn't quite have the same resonance as it does in person. But there are a lot of advantages to doing things virtually too, that, for instance, we do I'm sure we'll get into it, but the in-person ultimate boot camps that we call them, the 2-day trainings. I was at a truck club last week and promoted one that was going to be in the area. Guy came up to me afterward and he goes, "Can I see the rest of the schedule? Because I would love to make it to that one. We can drive it, but we're already committed to something else." Well, virtual might be the answer then in that case. So at One Nexus, we want to make sure that if there is something that you want to learn, or you have somebody that you need to learn, say fleet and commercial, that we're able to help that person in the best way possible for them, the dealership, and so on.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Is your focus more on, I know you talked about fixed ops. Is it more fixed ops? Is it sales? Is it all encompassing? Where's your focus?
No, it's primarily in sales on the commercial and fleet side. I'm just lucky in that I got to have, like I said, a couple of years of belly to belly every day with service advisors on the retail side, even though they did handle fleet vehicles, they were primarily retail, and really start to see the dealership as a whole
Mhm.
on a regular basis and from
Mhm.
different angles, and knowing commercial and fleet, knowing the retail side and how it relates to those two, service, techs, the advisors and techs, how their relationships are. So after that, I got a really really good view of the whole package, and I feel like I can educate better as a result.
Oh, good. Yeah, yeah. When it comes to your students, are you seeing a bigger influx of our younger generation? Is it still kind of the same as it's always been? What's your typical student look like?
We're starting to see that, but I would say it would be more. You do see some people that are, say, young 20s. Um, but we see much more people that are around my age. I'm 38, maybe not quite that old, but say 33 to 36, somewhere in there, where they've maybe been on retail for a while, or maybe did their own thing, entrepreneurship or something like that for a while, and came over, maybe outside sales, B2B, in some other industry, and have come over to fleet and commercial and see the potential and are working toward getting where that, the generation that's so common in commercial that you see that are, and I'm not being ageist or anything, but
No,
just
no.
put in the
Yeah.
profile on it, say anywhere from 60 to 75, really, probably, that they're seeing, okay, here's how those people did it, here's what made them successful. I want to end up that way, hopefully sooner rather than later. But I think there's some patience that needs to come into play with that, as you know, most industry veterans know, of, kind of a hang in there encouragement. Set your systems, build your networks. You will get there. Just have a little patience on it.
Yeah.
So, but I do also see a problem where this industry, the side of the industry, and marketing that position
Mm.
for job boards and things like that, it's difficult. It's just hard to explain without just actually doing it and kind of observing the industry.
Yeah, that's what we've found. When I got in the industry, I was fortunate because I was younger. I had come from fixed ops. I was given an opportunity to get into sales, and I was 30 years old. Which for a long time I was one of the youngest guys in any fleet department.
Hmm.
Because as to what you're saying, you get guys that are, in their twilight of their career, or, 60s, 70s, some, guys that are doing really well in their 80s. It's such a lucrative industry, because when you've spent, you know, 20, 30, 40 years building a customer base, it's hard to walk away from. And there's no residual, right? So you get a guy that, has sold trucks his whole life. When he quits selling trucks, there's no more.
Hmm.
So, it's rare that you see a truck guy that's willing to walk away at a decent age to still have some life left to go do some fun stuff. Typically, they'll just hang around, because they could sell, 15 or 20 a month, make a really good living. And you just keep doing that till as long as they want to do it. And generally, because we don't have a big influx of our younger generation yet, they're not really forced away
Right.
because of that customer base.
Right.
So yeah, it all makes sense. And I do agree with you that, and I think we talked about this off air. The the thing about commercial truck sales is, I think that the tough part is convincing a young salesperson that has an option of going and selling a BMW or an Audi or a Mercedes versus a bunch of white trucks.
Hmm.
Generally, they're going to pick their European imports retail because it's it's less of a barrier, um, to explain it. All you have to do is,
Yes.
and I say all, I don't mean this in a bad way, but generally, if you have processes in place, like for example, I'm sure your group puts in place for people. If they'll follow along the process, generally they can become successful a lot faster than they can in the commercial truck world.
Yes.
It's just a completely different mindset. I'm sure that's what you're experiencing as you're going through these trainings.
Yes, absolutely. Ken had a saying that fits that beautifully, that given a great salesperson but a poor system, you will see failure. But
Mm.
given a average salesperson with a great system, you will see excellence. And I think that that shows up time and time again. And I wanted to also kind of give a little bit of love to my colleagues at One Nexus, because one of the things that in them first getting our attention, by our I mean Ken and I, that I noticed of like, hey, this could be a really, really good thing. You'd mentioned the young people in the industry, and we had done our ultimate boot camps, which some, especially in that time frame, are in dealers specific to the dealer group, but most of them, by and large, are open to anybody from any manufacturer, the dealerships, and sometimes sales managers and commercial managers, and even dealer principals. But I was noticing in that time that there were some young, really sharp people that were coming to us that just needed to put the pieces together. They had the talent, they had the understanding of all these different things. They just didn't have quite the connection of all of it. And you could see our event really allow their brainwaves to make the connections. And found out after the fact that most of those, probably 80% of them, and not many, we're talking maybe 15 people total, but most of them went through Nexus's recruiting and hiring.
Mm.
And so I hear about that and I was like, oh, that guy went through. Oh, that makes sense. They seem really well prepared. Whereas maybe 10 years ago when we'd be doing these, or even pre-COVID, you would get somebody that was in, say, in their 20s and was like, I don't even know if you should be in sales at all. Like even in retail right now, like you're just a warm body that's here, for lack of a better phrase. So to see some true talent and drive and potential come out, it was like, okay, let's start to really take this seriously. And obviously, it ended up where it did.
Yeah. Yeah. I can and it's funny that you mentioned that. We have run across, and when I say we, you and I, you just get some people you're like, bro. Or it's like, man, you might want to try to find something else because this may not be for you. And it's not for everybody. It looks easy. Now, I'm going to tell you that my experience, the reason why a lot of people, and I want to say generally on the retail side, the reason they want to all of a sudden start selling fleet and commercial is two things: weekends off and evenings off. That's what they look at. And I've seen people that get into a fleet commercial role, they get very little training. Because a lot of management groups leave it to the locker room to teach,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
So when I was on the desk and I was selling full time, I didn't have time to teach somebody. I'm going. It's like, hey, I've got a number that I have to hit because I've set my goal so high. I don't have time to stop and teach. Now I can mentor you. If you have a question and you need a little guidance, I'm here for you. But if you need me to take you one on one, I simply don't have that. And you go down the hallway, and typically that's what you find. Guys that they just don't have the time, nor do they feel like it's their, I don't want to say responsibility, but their obligation, I guess, more than anything else. It's like, it's not my job to train you. You're going to, how many times you heard this? You're going to have to figure it out.
Hmm.
Go figure it out. It's like, that's that's a horrible way, but that's typical because in the 70s, 80s, and even in the 90s, when I cut my teeth into the business, it was like, you're going to have to figure this out, and I want you to go follow this person that is very successful and just do exactly what they do. That's the worst advice you can give somebody, because I spent probably the first 6 months of my sales career trying to do exactly what somebody else did, but it never
You,
worked.
you were waiting by the phone for it to ring.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it worked for them. And then it wasn't until I was able to step back and really analyze. It's like, okay, what can I do that is similar to them? Maybe I can take a little bit from them, but instead of watching one person, I need to watch as many people as I can. Exactly. Take a little bit from everybody. And then that's how we did it up until these days. These days, now we have things that can help us, YouTube, training programs that we didn't have back then. So there's a lot of resources now um, to be able to get new people into our industry and give them an opportunity to be very successful, for sure.
You said a couple things there that I want to touch on. First of all, I say it pretty much any time I'm involved with anybody in work truck. My favorite word in this industry is resource,
Mm.
because ultimately that if you're doing it right, that's what you are supposed to be. You're a resource for your customers and really even for your dealership in being able to handle those leads and stuff like that. So thank you for bringing that to attention. But we've found, and I've seen this more times than I care to admit, and then obviously Ken decades beyond me before that, where that advice of usually it's one of two things: either go out and knock on doors and just cold call till you drop from rejection, or it's follow the other guy that's successful, as you mentioned. And if you do that, that person's phone will be ringing all day long because it's his customers of, say he's got 100 customers, whatever it is, that are just rotating through their vehicles on the time that that person set them on, but he's busy enough that the phone keeps ringing. And it looks similar to, say, a retail up. Well, if you're sitting around waiting for the phone to ring and you've made zero connections whatsoever, the phone is going to ring this amount of times. I mean, zero for those of you guys listening. So when you hear that, or when we hear that, when we go into a dealership and, oh yeah, I've just had him shadow JJ. Well, the only thing JJ does to get up is he goes to the vending machine, he goes to the bathroom. Otherwise, he's at his desk and he's fielding calls or he's building deals. That's it. That's no kind of, even though he's very successful, that's no kind of training for somebody. So we've obviously built a system with Ken, refined it with one Nexus, I've added certainly my own layers to it, where if you do these things, you're going to have a reasonable shot to be successful. And if not, there's a really good chance, and I don't mean to pin it back on the learner here, but there's a really good chance that you didn't do something right along the way to have your system flow as well as it could. So that's interesting. But I'll add one more. We were talking before we started about my background before that played football all the way through college.
Yeah.
And when it comes to learning from people or teaching people, depending on which side you're on, I like sharing the story of the first place that I played as a quarterback was the University of Hawaii. And I came in 2006 when Colt Brennan, those of you guys that remember his name, Heisman Trophy candidate, he had played one season for us, and '06 in '05. And then '06 was his excellent year. '07 he was a Heisman candidate. But in '04 was Timmy Chang's last year. And Timmy Chang set the record for all-time yardage and maybe something else as a passer. And when I got there, we watched a ton of film between the '04 season and the '05 season. And what I learned was that, me personally, I learned so much more from Colt doing things wrong or just missing opportunities or missing reads or something like that, or that's where the ball should go, than I did from Timmy running it very smoothly, because it just almost looked like just watching a normal football game, watching Timmy execute. Yeah, the ball should go there, and your eyes don't really recognize some of the things. You almost just get stuck watching the ball. Whereas watching Colt, it was like, wait, the ball should be coming here. Why isn't it coming here? Oh, I'm learning what actually needs to happen, when it needs to happen, etc. So I'm not saying necessarily go and look for people doing it wrong. But what I am looking for is, if your learning process, whatever's going on in the dealership, is not working for you, don't be afraid to find something else. And I don't mean find another job necessarily, but find another way to learn it. And that's really where I feel like we come in very, very comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. I have figured out, I say figured out, I have some ideas on, if I was to start over, what would I want to know?
Hmm.
To your point, there's a few things that I would want to know. Number one, regardless of what you think you are as a salesperson, you have to figure out what your strengths are, what your
Hmm.
weaknesses are. That's the first part. If I was going to tell someone that's just getting into our industry, that's the first part. What do you want to do and how do you want to do it? They won't understand anything I'm saying until I say this. Let's say, for example, um, you want to sell, let's say, you've got an opportunity to sell cab overs. All right, great. Cab overs are typically an inner city vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go to a dealership that's out in the boonies and they have cab over trucks, most likely, if that's where you're going to put your focus, you will fail because it is so hard to sell something out of a market that it's not designed for. So the second part of that is, what does your dealership want to do? So, for example, I did really well selling trucks online. I had processes in place that allowed me the opportunity. I wasn't the guy that was going to go every week to the Chamber of Commerce to rub elbows with everybody. That wasn't me. Transversely, what I would do, I wasn't the relationship builder with my customers. I was a process. Give me what you need. I want to get it to you as fast as I can and as efficiently as possible because I feel like as a business owner, that's what you need. But as a business owner, and here's the other caveat to learning how to sell, is you have to sell cradle to grave. And when I tell people that, they're like, I don't understand. Real simple. There are certain days you're going to get to the dealership and you're not going to be able to have the opportunity to sell anything. Your job as a salesperson, but your job is also relationship management. So if you get a customer that calls and says, hey, I've got a truck in your shop and I can't get it out, guess what? Your objective for the day has just changed because now your main focus is going to be to be able to help that customer get that truck out of the shop. Why? Well, he's bought 50 trucks from you. He deserves your attention to his
Yes.
fleet.
Yes.
A lot of new and even old sales guys and ladies, they don't get that. They're like, no, that's not my job. Whoop, stop, hold on. You start getting a not my job, that becomes not your customer because they will find somebody that will help them. And those are the things I would tell people. Like, number one, figure out what you're really good at and how you want to do it. Number two, make sure that aligns with the dealership group that you decide that you're going to line up
Very
with.
good point. Yes.
Right. And the other thing is cradle to grave, meaning once that truck leaves the lot, you're not done. That customer is going to call, even if that truck is in another state where he is or she is. And they call and say, hey, this dealership's telling me they don't have this part. It's your obligation to at least start to go down that path to figure out if you can help them or not. Even though you don't feel like it's your responsibility, it's your obligation. And those are the three things I would tell salespeople.
That sounds an awful lot like you're not a sales rep, you're a resource.
There you go. To your point, that's right.
Well, I'm big on if my mom was an English teacher for many years, although she stopped before I was born. But then she just turned it from those students to us, right?
Right.
But finding the right word to
Mm.
describe something, and I feel like in this industry, that one really is it for exactly what you just said. Why would you want to go hunt a new opportunity that might, I don't know, in a good year might get you 15 sales as far as units moved in a year, when you can take care of the customer that's already bought 50 from you, solve one problem, and as a result of solving that problem, you probably just sold yourself the next 3 years worth of trucks to that person
Mm-hmm.
right then and there.
Yeah.
You already have the connection. You don't have to go start from scratch, the small talky kind of stuff. You're already deep with them. You're already in that process I think along the same lines you do. Whereas like a Ken, for instance, very much the rubbing elbows type, get in amongst the networks. If you have that ability to take care of somebody that you've already built a relationship with, just do it. Do it.
Yeah. 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 The law of reciprocity, right?
Hmm.
So customer has already given you something. They've given you their time, they've given you their money, they've given you the opportunity to take care of them. And I tell salespeople all the time, imagine every person that you sell a vehicle to, you're going to give them a little pink piggy bank. Okay. Just they're going to take that piggy bank, and every time you do something good, they're going to throw an attaboy in that piggy bank. And every time you leave them high and dry in their eyes, They get to take one of those attaboys out of there, and you have to replenish. It's like a bank account. So when you first sell a customer and you give them the piggy bank, generally there's nothing in it because you really haven't done anything. What have you done? Now, it could be something as simple as sending a message, forwarding a newsletter. Hey, man, I saw this and thought it might help you. It's making a connection. Hey, I've got an insurance guy that would love to talk with you. Or, you know, financials, a little sticky widget in the dealership because they obviously want to retain all the financial opportunities. But let's face it, a lot of dealers can't do everything. So if, your customers got off highway equipment, they're looking for a good lender, it's okay. It's like, hey, call this guy. I've sold him whatever. Those are resources that they get to put in that piggy bank. And then there's going to be a time when you trip up and you didn't come through for that customer. They're going to pull one out. But as long as you've got some resources in there, you're going to be able to continue going down that road. It's when there's no resources and they have to break the bank to be able to go figure out if there's anything left, and you haven't talked to them in months, years, you haven't offered any help. All those things go into, let me find another guy or a lady
Mm-hmm.
that can help me. And that's when I metaphorically, when I tell people that, they get it. They're like, oh yeah. So just think about it. Anybody that you've done business with, how much rope do you give them at first? Not much. But the longer you're together, the longer the rope. And when people get that, it's like, yes, that's part of the resource that you mentioned here of being a complete resource. Yes, I sell trucks and I sell equipment, but I can also help you. Because what'd you tell the customer? I'm here for you. Oh, yeah? That means you're here for me at 7 o'clock on a Saturday night when he's hung up and he's like, a lot of times you can just pick up the phone. There's nothing you can do, but you just want to hear the customer out. Hey, man, I'm hung up. What would you do? It's like, well, I can't get to service. I can't get the parts, let me refer you to a rental company if you really need a truck. And that, really you've done nothing but make a connection, but it carries a lot of weight for your customer. Yeah, for sure.
There's a couple analogies that are popping in my head that I think are worthwhile to add here,
Yeah.
and that is w- when you have that choice, as you mentioned, of trying to acquire a new customer. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't go after new customers, obviously, just, make that clear. But trying to find a new customer versus taking care of one that is effectively loyal to you, let's say. Think about yourselves, those of you that are listening to this. Every cell phone company, or I guess the carriers, the whatever they're called these days, data carriers, the AT&Ts, T-Mobiles, Verizons, those ones. Think about how often you hear the sales message that a new customer will get something that's like half the price of what you've had and you've been with them for 20 years. How does that make you feel? It should be terrible, right? What's the cool thing about them? I should be getting that discount. Versus, I'm sure there are so many people, whether it's a Starbucks or a Wawa or Chick-fil-A or Chipotle, something where you get a reward of a free coffee or a free burrito or whatever after 10 purchases. I would bet that you feel much better about the latter when you're looking at your bills at the end of the month versus the other way around. Take that same approach to your customers. The ones that continue to stay with you, work with you, they get the attention. They win. You may have to add people to that roster till you get to that threshold that you need for make the kind of money that you want.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. But until that customer has kind of earned it the same way, and you've earned it that relationship works for them as well, then hang on to the ones that you have. Make sure
Yeah.
they are solid and
Yeah.
they're not going it.
Yeah. Here's a question for you. I've asked colleagues and people along the way for years and years and years. I'm going to give you two scenarios. One scenario is you've got a small business owner. He's got, let's call it 25 trucks in his fleet. He never shops you. He allows you to make money, and he calls you 100% of the time. That's customer A. Customer B has 500 trucks in their fleet. They're loyal, but you don't get all 500. Let's say it's 20% of their fleet. You're getting 100 units a year. My question to you is, who do you prioritize? Because you got customer A that's 100% loyal to you. Customer B brings so much more to the table in unit sales, but occasionally he'll shop you, keep you honest, and he only gives you 20%. No matter how hard you try, his philosophy is, I'm not putting all my eggs into one basket. Now, who do you prioritize? That's the
To,
question.
to me, yeah, and I know what a dealership would probably say
Of
for obvious
course.
reasons,
Of
right?
course. Yes, of course. Yeah.
But really, the ideal scenario in there is to try to find four others that are just like the first guy,
Mm-hmm.
that almost effectively replace that 100 that you get from what really sounds like a fleet management more
Mm-hmm.
style setup than
Mm-hmm.
anything else. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, no.
But if you can focus, so many people want to have one, two, three of those, and then that's it.
Mm.
Right? And they don't want to focus on anything else. And if you can make a lot of money that way and you could sleep well at night that way, fine. But I've seen plenty of examples of, oh, we lost that one. And now all of
Mm-hmm.
a sudden that profit margin just goes to completely unattainable to get back to whatever you're going to. Whereas if you continue to work that groundswell underneath and you have that little roster, if you will, of the 25s, let's say, in their entire fleet, you're going to feel better about your job. You might have to work harder at it because there's just more deals and more customers that come into play. But my guess is you're also going to be seeing those people much more often in general, whether it's golf tournaments, networking events, or whatever. And you're going to feel better about operating that way as well. So I know there's some people that, yes, I want those jackpot fleets, as at least one manufacturer I work with calls them. I like that phrase, but maybe, but I've seen that traditionally people are at least happier going the other way.
Yeah, because it's a deeper dive into a good relationship at that point. Um, when I was selling, I had a good mixture, as most people do, of all kinds of fleets. I will tell you where I put my priorities, or not priorities, but my emphasis. Generally, they had to check a couple of boxes for me. One, did I feel like they allowed me to do my job?
Yes.
Number one, right?
Yes.
Number
Hmm.
one, I didn't say anything about making money. I said, allow me to do my job. Um, Number two is important. Did they allow me to make money? Meaning, if you've got someone that's just constantly mooching on you, they're always wanting you to give them
Right.
everything. Just
Right.
give, 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 give. At the end of the day, yes, that's a scratch on the board. But in my past experience, and I think a lot of people would agree with me, that particular customer becomes more than what you really want to work with. So at what point do you fire a customer? Because you're trying to grow as an individual, you're trying to grow your business, you're trying to grow your portfolio. You're going to have some anchors along the way. I don't mean that in a bad way. It is what it is, right? At some point, you have to understand that not all business is good business. You got a customer. Look, it's real simple. Hey, I got a new person in the office here. Um, would love to be able to connect the two of you together. And it's a soft opening. You're helping somebody else. You're kind of moving that customer. You're keeping it within the dealership umbrella, which they would be happy with. But now you've kind of removed the obstacles, if you will, to be able to work on festering those customers like we just referenced that are going to allow you to do your job, are going to allow you to make money. They're going to refer people because that's an excellent resource, to coin your phrase, of people that will do that for you, that you may not get with the person that's in charge of allowing you to have 20% of their fleet.
Hmm.
Typically, you don't get a whole lot. It's the lower hanging fruit, the small business owner that relies on you for a lot of things that someone that controls a 500 or bigger fleet, they don't really need you for. They have software, they have, matrices, and they have consultants, and they have things that help them, software. Whereas the smaller guy, typically a trades guy, He doesn't have time to mess with it. He wants it simple. He wants it concise. He wants a straight deal. He wants you to take care of him. And he wants you to pick up the phone whenever he calls. Those, to me, if I can have guys like that, I picked up the phone for them 100% of the time. Probably peeling the curtain back here, but there are some customers you just don't pick up the phone every time because you either know what it's about, or again, when you're having to prioritize and you've got really good customers and you've got some medium customers and you got some, it is what it is, but you tend to keep those at the forefront, or at least I did.
No, I agree with you. And the part about let me do my job, I want to spin that for those of you that are in dealership leadership. Hear that phrase quite a bit. One of the exercises that we've injected recently into the Ultimate Bootcamp, I've been doing this on the personal side myself for probably about a dozen years, on a weekly basis, but then daily review type of thing, is outlining my week in calendar form, but basically in kind of spreadsheet form, almost like playing a game of Battleship of the day on the, what would that be? Columns or days, and then rows are the hours, and putting that grid together. And I take the guys and the gals that come to the Ultimate Boot Camp through that exercise, obviously in a very short format. I spend probably more time than I should on my own calendar. But the idea behind it is, how much time are you actually given in a quote 40-hour work week to actually do what you're supposed to do? There's so much busy work that comes into play. Some of it is most of it anyway, absolutely necessary. But what I need you to see is, of those 40 hours, do you have 26 to sell? Do you have 14 to sell? Do you have 8? What is it? And then the twofold thing there is, take this to your management and let them know, hey, can we reduce what's on my plate for A, B, and C so that I can go out and add 10 hours of selling, or whatever it is, that give and take that comes into play. But then the other side of, if you can't do anything about it, and let's say that number's 20, just cut it right down the middle, 20 hours a week selling, you better be efficient with that 20 hours. You can't waste your time doing stuff. Now, you can go to the gas station and prospect and meet all the trucks that pull in to fill up at 7:30 in the morning. Absolutely recommend that. What you don't want to do is be caught in a water cooler conversation about the game last night with the service manager. You have other stuff to do, and so do they. So being efficient with your time, but seeing it visually, I think really, really helps people with that, to understand of, holy smokes, wasting a lot of time here, or I'm not allowed to do as much as I need to do to find a certain level of success.
I love that. What I found, to your point, to your question of how much time do you really have in a day, in a week? So in versus retail, where most of your transactions are done in the evening or on the weekends when your customer is available. On the commercial side, I pinned it down to, you've got from about 10 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon, a 4-hour window that you could effectively communicate with your customer. Typically, if they're in the trades, they're going to get started somewhere before the sun comes up, whatever time frame you want to. Let's say it's 5 a.m. Getting guys on the road, handling things from the previous day before the phone starts ringing. They'll typically have some meetings in the morning when everybody gets to the office. And then they're going to carve some time out around lunchtime to be able to have conversations about things they need to purchase. Selling trucks is a part of that. It could be off-highway equipment. It could be office equipment. Whatever it is, they're typically going to fit that in the middle of the day, because by the afternoon time, things have now shifted, because now they are having to take care of more problems that popped up and arise in the morning. They've got people that now are getting ready to leave for the day. So we call it the pilot program. So I'm going to take it off my desk and I'm going to pilot on yours, right? So that's how the program works. So by 3 o'clock, you're starting to get a pile of new projects that either need to be done that day, or certainly by the next morning, because now it's become important. At that point, you can hang up trying to go knock on a door to get in front of a customer at
Right.
4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's just
You've
not
missed
going to
your
happen.
window.
Absolutely. It's typically, you can have some success very early in the morning. Show up with a box of donuts at 7 a.m. Having said that, you can get to them. Since COVID, it's very convenient for groups, businesses, firms, whatever, to say, well, he's remote. He does all our truck purchases, but he's
Yeah.
remote. But knowing full well that Will's sitting in the office back there, I can't blast in there. So I have to play the game. Okay, I got a box of donuts here. I'd really like to get in front of Will. All I'm looking for is 5 minutes. You hand somebody the card, the donuts stay, the card goes in the trash. Typical. It's just repetitive at that point. But back to my point, there's about a 4-hour window. So you have about 20 hours a week that you could effectively talk to a customer. Anytime before that or after that, it's customer emails, you respond, customer circles back at 4 o'clock in the evening. It's one of those things where if you need an immediate answer, and here's another point. When you're talking to that customer and they're telling you what they want, it's important. It's extremely important to be able to get as much knowledge as you can off that
Yes.
phone call.
Yes.
Hey, have you got pictures you can send me? Have you got, a build that you've done in the past that you really like? What problems everybody wants to race to the close. You have to be able to figure out what they need, because again, in that small window that they're on the phone, you took the phone call at 10 a.m. Let's say you get to that project at 3 in the afternoon because you're busy. I get it. Now you've got questions. Hey, Will, I had some questions on this truck bill, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I send that to you. You're not going to look at it until the next morning because you're busy doing other things. Now, I promised you a quote by the end of the day. I didn't get it to you because I had questions. Why? Because I didn't do my job. I didn't ask the right questions when we were on the phone. So it's important that you know what to do with a call when it comes in. That's an important part. And I tell young people all the time, don't just assume. Don't just assume when someone says, I need an F-250 with a service body on it. And that's all you're going to do. You're not going to ask any follow-up. What do you do
Right.
with it? Right? That's your point. That's your opportunity to ask the customer so what are you using it for? What kind of
Yep.
business are you in? Does it work out good for you? Because you might find that it might not be the right application. And there's an opportunity because you can now educate a customer. And again, talking about the piggy bank, now you're putting stuff in. You're making deposits into that piggy bank.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
What there's a lot of ways we can go with that. I love that. So
Yeah.
on that point, exactly, the piggy bank's a good analogy for there, where you can put a lot of your own input into that simply by asking questions that are in your process. Where I'm working on something right now, it hasn't taken shape yet. It's more of it's a little bit past brainstorming, but not much beyond that as far as the process goes. But having something ironclad where there is a value add for 24 different interactions. And you can jump the gun, they can jump the gun and buy at any point or whatever. But the sale of the vehicle ideally is right about in the middle of those. So as we know, we've seen research from B2B sales. We promote it in our trainings that most sales occur somewhere between the 5th and the 12th contact. And we're not talking you're just emailing them every day and okay, the 5th one, okay, you've annoyed me enough, I'm buying. Obviously, we're not talking that. Can you get comfortable within your process of, hey, it's call number 6. They haven't bought yet, but they also haven't said no yet either. Call number 6, I typically talk about track lease, whatever it is, you pick it. Can you have those 24 with a good chunk of them being your follow through process on the backside of that sale to, in this case, further put collateral into that piggy bank for the next sale on down the line, etc. But you can ask so many questions of quality that allow you to promote yourself as maybe not necessarily an expert, but somebody for them to take seriously at a minimum. Of, yeah, you want an F-250 with a service body. Well, okay, again, what are you going to use it for? How much are you actually going to put into it? How many vehicles do you have in your fleet? How many people are going to be in the crew that are going to be riding on this every day? So many questions that you can ask that have, sure, they obviously lead to the sale, but they're not sales oriented. That can really, really help you in how you go about communicating with that person, where at least, again, they have to at least take you seriously. You're not just an order taker at that point. You're a
Right.
consultant or resource.
Yeah. I used to, a lot of people throw the word expert around a lot, and I've
Hmm.
never, I've been doing this for a long time, as you. I like to consider myself an authority and not an expert. There's a difference. There's a distinct difference. An authority means I don't know everything, but I know enough to help you, and I know where to go get the answers to your questions. An
Yes.
expert is someone that carries themselves as I don't need outside help. I already know it all. Well, let's face it. There's very few people that know it all. That we all need help. So that's why I like to use the word authority. Let me, influencer. Maybe I can help influence a decision here, or things of that nature. No, it's yeah. We could. There's a lot of layers of that onion we could peel back for sure.
Mine that I like to fall back on, I even did this in, it actually fits really well as a quarterback, is
Okay.
facilitator.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it is
Yeah.
my job to facilitate the play and get the ball where it needs
Love
to
it.
go, wherever it is. And in this industry, it's, I don't want to know everything. I don't have enough brain bandwidth
No.
for that.
No.
And I don't have enough time to want to dedicate to just that, right?
Yeah.
But what I do want to be able to do is open your eyes to the possibility of you being able to do this very, very well, more efficiently, whatever it is, to allow your bigger picture to become a little clearer.
Yeah. Yeah. Love
That's
it.
my chase in this. And
Love it.
it's going to be different for everybody. But so often, what I've found is the questions, the processes, and the resources, they're very similar. And you just have to kind of read that person, where they are, where they came from, and bang,
Yeah.
go right at
And go after it.
it.
Yeah.
Mm.
You sound super passionate about what you do.
Yes.
So I know you've been doing it for a long time. Tell me, what gets you up in the morning? What's fun? What do you love about what you do?
We asked this question pretty early on in our trainings, and we actually have people write it out. We call
Okay.
it, "What is your why?"
Okay.
And the one thing that you're not allowed to do is write, "I want to make $1 million" or whatever, a quantifiable monetary value.
Makes
Can't do
sense.
that.
Yep.
We're all chasing that, of course. But what can that level, whatever it is, fund in your life that you're really excited about? Maybe it's, hey, I want to pay for my daughter's dream wedding. Maybe it's, I'm 10 years away from retirement and I would like to be 5 years away from retirement. That's significant. Maybe it's, one of my whys that's it's a secondary one, but I don't mind sharing here, is in 2 years, I'll be 40. My dad will be 70. Golf is at the center of our world. He grew up in the industry and he's still in it today. And I certainly love to play it and observe a lot. So part of that is when I'm 40, he's 70. We want to go to St. Andrews and over in Scotland and have a golf trip.
Yeah.
So how do you finance that? How do you set things up with, knowing, hey, I'm going to be gone for a week. I'm going to play golf. Wife, I love you, but don't talk to me.
Yeah.
This is me. How do you facilitate that? How do you, my kids are 9 and my son's almost 6 and my daughter's 9, son's almost 6. And how do you bring in enough money to take them on a vacation that they're going to remember their entire lives, even long after I'm gone? What does that look like? Those are the things that drive me on the personal side. But in the day to day, it's a lot of the stuff that I just talked about. It's being able to open up the eyes and opportunities of somebody who maybe can't see the steps to their future. They see the end goal, but they have no idea how to get there. And I help them facilitate that. And I get those coming back to me in, hey, that one tip really helped me do X. We did one training to kind of sidestep for a moment at Nissan. It was, I don't think they mind sharing this here. It was all about handling burnout. And it was a acronym called ADAPT. I don't remember what the different ones were now. I've had plenty of content run through, but I remember that being the most pivotal part of any training and all of the trainings, those handful of slides with all the service advisors that I would see once a quarter in that belly-to-belly format. And when I would go back the next quarter, maybe quarter after, whenever I would see them next, half of them probably came up to me and said, when you turned to that slide, I thought it was just, oh my God, we're just talking acronym just for the sake of talking acronym. And I never really used it, but I thought about it so much. And just in doing that, that helped me change. And I'll usually ask them, well, what was it? It was 100% personal all the time. And so to see something that really almost looked like a throwaway or do it for the sake of doing it, and then watch it affect these people on a personal level. One of them got back together with his wife because he kind of got
Wow.
his you-know-what together,
Yeah.
cleared things out of the way. They were headed for divorce, and they got back together. Now, in his case, it wasn't a quarter. It was a little bit longer than that when it came to be. But still, I don't know what that impact's going to be. But I want to give you an opportunity to find it. And then hopefully, if you're willing, share that back to me.
Yeah.
That's the drive that really, really hits me.
Yeah. I found, and I think we've all experienced it. I did at a monstrous level, burnout. And in reflecting back on burnout and looking and talking to other people, you can equate it, almost all of it, to one thing: is that they were chasing, myself included, the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
I confidently wanted to know what dealership records were. What's the most anybody sold in a year? I didn't really put, in fact, I didn't at all. I didn't put a monetary value to that because it's irrelevant. What you make today, you couldn't make 30 years ago. So that was irrelevant. I wanted to know units. What is it? I wrote it down. I put a sticky note on my monitor so I could see it every single day. The problem is I didn't make it big enough. I hit the number. It took me about 4 years to get there, but I hit the number. And I'm sure you've experienced this, and a lot of people that are listening or watching this have probably experienced it, is when you reach the top of the mountain and that was your goal, now what?
Mm-hmm.
Now what? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I did it. And I want to tell you, Will, I'd be willing to bet that 99 people out of 100, when they reach that pinnacle, it is not anything like what you expected. There's no fanfare. Nobody cares. So we all have to look inside. What's your why? I love it because it has to be more than the quantifiable number. Like you said, we all want to make $1 million a month, a week, a year,
Whatever it is, yeah.
whatever it is, right?
For that new guy, it might be hitting $5,000 in a paycheck. That whatever.
Yeah, or just having his name at the top of the board one month. And I used to tell young salespeople that hit the floor, again, more of a mentorish role of, hey, let me put my arm around you, wish you luck. I'm here if you need anything. Can't train you, but I'm here. But they would always tell me the same thing. I want to be better than this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, well, why do you say that? Well, because he's the one that's always brought up in the meetings, and he's the one that gets all this, and he's the one that he gets his own parking spot and all that stuff. I said, well, why stop there? And when you say that to somebody, they just like, well, what do you mean, why stop there? I don't think I'll ever get there. Well, if that's your pinnacle, you'll never get there. You've got to set that pinnacle beyond that. And that's when you see people that are constantly having the chase that don't reach burnout, because you've seen it. I've seen it. People put a monetary value to it, and then they get burned out because they're chasing for all the wrong reasons. Hey, it's Patrick, and I hope you're enjoying my conversation with Will Brogan with One Nexus Group. This guy's got some great insights and knowledge from his 20 plus years of firsthand industry experience. It's been a pleasure talking with him. Hey, I wanted to let you know about a new publication that I plan on releasing in October of this year called the Truck Talk You newsletter. Now, my newsletter will bring you straight to the point insights, industry trends, and practical ideas to help you grow your business, build stronger relationships, and stay ahead in the commercial truck world. It was created by fleet pros for fleet pros like yourself. Hey, check it out. Jump on over to trucktalku.com and subscribe to get the latest industry news and notes. And also be sure to catch part 2 of this interview that I'm finishing up with Will Brogan. Hey, thanks for listening.